Here we go, back at it. Thursday, September 27th. Sportsbit, betting insight today, Pauly and Teddy. SBR picks. I'm at Real Sportsbit on Twitter. He's at Teddy_, covers all the betting news you need to know in less than 20 minutes. Rapid fire college football coming up. The Friday night game, Colorado at home to UCLA. Ohio State, Penn State, Stanford, Notre Dame. The Duke game, Clemson, quarterback change, transfer already, revenge for Clemson. 4-0 Syracuse. We'll run through all these games coming up. And we'll get to the NFL on Friday. It's fun now. 4 days left to the regular season of baseball. We'll get to the what the scenarios are in a second. We know all the playoff teams in the American League. Some vicious beats as always. How about the Nats? Run line and over 9. They didn't even bother, Teddy. It's the 8th inning rain delay. They said the hell with it. We're not going to wait around. They call it. That's a refund for run line and total players.
Sure, and that's one of those rules. Again, the only reason that you get refunded on totals that get rained out is because you're supposed to get refunded on unders that get rained out. The overs, the reason you get a refund is because it's too complicated to explain, and that's the way the rule has always been, and so on and so forth. So, over bettors, when it's over already and the rain comes, they get screwed, and it's even worse when the umps are like, yeah, well, time to go, which was the case last night. Tough beat for the Nats run line bettors. Tough beat for Nats bettors, tough beats for over bettors. All of those wagers get wiped out when the game doesn't finish 8.5 innings.
That's right, yeah. 9-3 in the 8th, and they didn't even bother for the last 6 outs. Cubs run line, they won the game. 6-2 in the 8th. Pirates get 2 in the 8th, 2 in the 9th. Cubs walk it off in the 10th, 7-6. And Marquez, 1 strike away from being the first pitcher since 1900 to strike out the first 9 batters in a game. 2 strikes on the pitcher, Pavetta, and he did the Olay on the 0-2 breaking ball and served it up, got a piece of it in a comebacker. What a performance by Marquez and Teddy. What a sweat if you had the Phillies under. They were 15 games over 500 in early August. They're now under 500. They got 78 wins with 4 games left.
Yeah, sure. The Phillies collapse has been an ugly one, and certainly if you've been betting against the Phillies in the month of September, you've done pretty well for yourself. A team that played very well for extended stretches this season, but has not played well down the stretch. As for the Cubs run line, look, this has been an ongoing problem for Chicago. The bullpen has not been getting outs. The Cubs have been blowing leads. So to say, all right, that's a brutal one. Yeah, they came back and won the game, or they didn't come back. The game was tied, and they walked off in 10. But it's a Cubs team that has what appears to me to be a fatal flaw unless they can get those bullpen woes solved. It cost run line backers significantly last night.
Bad for the books. All the moves got there. Cubs 170 up to 190. Rockies 185 up to $2. Rocking chair game, 14-0. Red Sox, game 1 of a doubleheader, 320 up to 360. 19-3 over the Orioles. Although Sale was a big favorite and they lost game 2, they still went 16-3 on the season against Teddy. They have a 60.5 game lead over the Orioles. Unbelievable. I think that's the 3rd highest all time. Brewers even money up to 115. They swept the Cardinals. The Cardinals had 2 hits. And then that base running fiasco where the pinch runner is going to score to tie the game. He falls down and they take him out at the plate. So here's what we have. Colorado's up a half game now over the Dodgers in the division. That goes up to a game if they can finish off the sweep and get the broom out against the Phillies, which would be huge, with 1 game lead of 3 up. As Mad Bum's going to go tomorrow for the Giants at home against the Dodgers. The Cubs have a half game lead over the Brewers. They both have clinched a playoff spot. The Cubs host the Pirates, finish that series later tonight. Williams, who 12 of his last 13 starts, has allowed 2 earned runs or fewer. He's been sensational. So that's a big game. And remember, the Brewers close with the Tigers, while the Cardinals go to Wrigley for 3. The Dodgers now have a 1-game lead for the second wild card spot over St. Louis, Teddy.
Sure. And we're basically looking at some multiple potentials for game 163 when you talk about scenarios. You could get St. Louis in a play-in game to get the second wild card game and have to play all of these the back-to-back-to-back jobbies with so much on the line. And with MLB, look, it's almost like the end of the NBA season where all of a sudden, but it's more because at the end of in the NBA season, you get a series. You get a 7-game series. At the end of this long slog of meaningless baseball, you get 1 game for some of these teams. So the pressure ratchets up fairly significantly compared to this weekend. But It is an exciting race in the NL, no question. The market's not sleeping in these squads. There's no way to make money backing the must-win teams, parlaying them all together on a day-in, day-out basis. The markets have adjusted, and that makes it difficult to find these squads to back. I don't do a lot the final weekend in MLB action. I really don't.
Give me another one. How big was that loss the other night with the A's? They blew an 8-5 lead in the eighth inning, their first loss this year. They were at 67-0 and leading after 7 innings. They'd be a half game back of the Yankees if they didn't blow that game the other night. All right, big game breakdown. Friday, 6 o'clock Pacific, Fox Sports 1. Colorado undefeated and at home to UCLA. They're 9.5 and 60.5 the total. It's been a horrible start for UCLA. New system with Chip Kelly. Not a lot of talent there with Mora leaving and out the door and Rosen going to the NFL. Even have Thompson, the quarterback, his dad, taking shots at Chip Kelly as well. And Colorado off to a good start. With the win at Nebraska, beat Colorado State. Nasty defense, night game in Boulder. They're going to be charged up and ready for this one on TV. They're laying 9.5. I like the home team here. What do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, UCLA's got their next 2 games, Washington and Cal. If they don't win here, they could be like 0-6. That'd be their worst start in the last 75 years. And certainly the beginning of the Chip Kelly era has not been pretty for the Bruins. And it may be like a Scott Frost situation where, yeah, it might get uglier before it gets better. But UCLA does have skill position talent. What they don't have is a defense and a quarterback right now. And Chip Kelly's playing possum with who's going to be at QB tonight. It might be Wilson Spate back off the bye. He got hurt prior to that bye week. But defensively, I mean, the Bruins were as bad as it gets last year and haven't been a whole lot better so far this season, which is bad news when you're going against, an NFL caliber wide receiver like Laviska Shenault. This guy's been a monster. 26 catches, 455 yards, 3 touchdowns so far on the season for the Bruins. And of course, Colorado too, coming off a bye week. And no, they're not looking past UCLA. Mike McIntyre, quote, UCLA is the best 0-3 team in the country. They played 3 really good teams, and they'll be the most athletic team we played this year. They had to play with a true freshman quarterback, which is really hard to do. I expect them to be really good and expect them to be able to make plays. It's going to be a hard contest. McIntyre knows this is no walkover for the Buffs. Colorado, not necessarily the most easiest team to win games by margin. They're still working on their offensive line and, in terms of shifting guys in and out of positions. And other than Shenault, not a whole lot of playmakers on the Colorado sideline.
Yep. I think Montez is a good quarterback as well. So we'll see if UCLA is able to move the ball. The 0-3 comment, he's just being nice. He doesn't want to provide any bulletin board material. That's from McIntyre. So that's on TV coming up. This one also on TV. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock Pacific, ABC. Clemson at home in revenge against Syracuse. Both teams undefeated. Clemson opened 22 and 63. It's 25.5 and 66. How about the news earlier in the week? Lawrence named the starter. He was awesome against Georgia Tech. 5 touchdown passes. The freshman, it's his job now. And Kelly Bryant said it's a slap in the face and he's going to transfer. How about Lawrence, 125-1 to win the Heisman? And that quickly moved. I took that in pocket as well with the news here. I think the kid's sensational. Got a rocket for an arm with a great defense. And we know what happened last year, Teddy. Friday night in Syracuse, Carrier Dome, 24-point favorites. Clemson lost the game. I don't know where the stops are coming from with Syracuse, but this offense has been fantastic. Dungy's a legit quarterback, but he's always, it seems like he's injury prone as well. He's left a couple games, and they did give up 40 points against Western Michigan in the first game. Definitely cause for concern when you're going on the road against Clemson.
No. Let's not forget, here we are in late September. By the end of the year, a lot of these games, how did it play out? What happened in the Western Michigan game was Syracuse completely shut them down, went into halftime with a big lead, came out in the second half and were flat as a pancake and let Western back into the game. It wasn't a bad Syracuse defensive effort from the get-go, although the stats at the end of the game said, Syracuse, look at all those points and yards.
Scored 4 touchdowns in the third quarter on them. I had to sweat that.
That's what I love about the statistics in college football is that they're going to give you all of this. Yeah, Western Michigan hit a handful of big plays in that third quarter. I remember watching them. Okay. Syracuse came out flat. They got gashed a little bit. If they come out flat against Clemson, they'll get gashed here. No question. Trevor Lawrence is a monster. And you talked about what the betting markets are doing. The betting markets, I was really surprised with this. The betting market saying, Kelly Bryant, bye-bye. See you somewhere else. The money's come heavily on Clemson in this ballgame since the announcement, and it's also come heavily on the over, which means they think that Lawrence is going to put up points in bunches against that Orange defense. Now, 54-0 the last time Syracuse visited Clemson. That was in 2016. It wasn't pretty. Then last year, obviously, Syracuse gets the revenge, pulls off the upset. Clemson was fat and happy, all of that. But when you look at the meeting right now for this weekend, A, Syracuse has been a great road dog. B, Clemson's going to have their ears pinned back to beat this team. And if they get the chance, markets are telling us Dabo might be running up the score in this one. Wants to make a statement for his quarterback, wants to make a statement for his alumni, wants to make a statement in revenge situation for a team that beat them. So you take the Orange, beware. This could be one of those fourth quarter run out situations like we saw, for example, last Friday, Penn State, Illinois.
Yep. 4 touchdowns last week for Lawrence in the win against Georgia Tech, not 5. And we'll see if Syracuse, even though they got that high octane offense, if they're able to move the ball. And the defense was able to shut down Florida State at home in the earlier home game. But easier said than done here, taking on one of the best teams. Well, we think one of the best teams, Teddy. I mean, I think by the end of the season, they will be. And they can challenge Alabama, one of the few teams in the country that could give them a game. But they were lucky to beat Texas A&M a couple of weeks ago.
Sure. But, again, any one given game, all right, you look at it over the course of the season. What happened in the A&M game? They didn't play very well. The offense didn't really move the football. The defense got gashed late, and that's certainly a concern for Clemson against Syracuse. The fact that the defense struggled against Kellen Mond and A&M may not bode well for the Tigers in this price range. Although, again, if they get the chance, they will punch in that late touchdown. It just has that feel to it, and certainly the market's expecting that.
All right, ESPN 2, 4 o'clock Pacific. Duke at home against Virginia Tech. The Dukies, 4.5 and 50.5 the total. Is this the second or third best team in the ACC? Virginia Tech off the horror show against Old Dominion. Lost as a 30-point favorite. Jackson's out. It's a battle of the backup quarterbacks. You got to go the backup again with Duke. Remember, they lost Gilbert the corner. And so far, so good, though. They won with the backup at Baylor. They beat Auburn. They beat Northwestern on the road and only allowed 7 points. One of the best coaches in the country that nobody talks about, Cutcliffe.
Sure. And when we're talking about backup versus backup at the QB position, there's a big nuance difference between the two backups. Okay. Virginia Tech's Josh Jackson got hurt last week in an embarrassing loss. After the game, the defensive end getting kicked off the team, and now you're putting in Ryan Willis, who is a Kansas transfer. You know, when Danny Etling goes from Purdue to LSU, you know what that offense is going to look like. It's not going to look like an NFL offense. When you have a Kansas starter at Virginia Tech at quarterback in Willis, without any extra time to prepare, I'm concerned, especially given that Duke's secondary is really good. I mean, we've seen it more than once this season, Duke shutting teams down in their passing game. And of course, for Duke, they're coming off a bye. They have a backup who's played before. And they have when we talk about a defense, this defense didn't give up 49 to Old Dominion. This defense is holding foes to 15 points a game. Been very impressed with the Blue Devils defense. And coming off a bye with a QB that already has some experience under his belt, you can understand why Duke is the chalk in this ballgame, even in a quote-unquote bounce-back spot for the Hokies. I'm not convinced. This is the first time that Justin Fuentes really faced adversity at Virginia Tech. We'll see if he responds to that. This is a pretty adverse situation for the Hokies.
All right, let's get to the marquee games. Ohio State at Penn State. Whiteout, Saturday night. Ohio State 3.5, 70.5 the total. Early money on the over. Buckeyes, 14-1-1 road favorites, less than 7 points. And that fits in this one. Last year, Penn State blew it. They had a big lead and let it get away. And we know what happened a couple years ago with the big upset, the block field goal late as well. Ohio State kicking ass and taking names, a ton of blowouts. They look great in that stretch against TCU. And what a job Haskins is doing right there. Heisman talk with Tua. What is it, 16 touchdowns or 19 touchdowns and 1 interception on the season? So he's been fantastic. Penn State defense had some issues. I can't get the App State game out of my mind. Also, a good bounce back, though, against Pitt. How about what happened Friday? Gave up a ton of points to Illinois. They were actually trailing in that game before they got the money. And a bad beat there as they pulled away and dropped 60. So can McSorley move the ball at Ohio State? And do you agree with the move with the over money?
Yes and yes. All right, McSorley's moved the ball against Ohio State. He did it last year. We saw Penn State, 38 in that ballgame. They lost by a point, but it wasn't that they didn't move the football. Now, a lot of it was big plays. There was some special teams shenanigans in that game for the Nittany Lions. And from a yardage standpoint, when you look at the box score a year later, you say, oh, yeah, Ohio State killed them. It was just all these fast big plays. I don't buy that. Yardage is not points, all right? And McSorley has been phenomenal. And he was phenomenal when Penn State, 2 years ago when Penn State beat Ohio State on this field in whiteout conditions like we're going to see. This is one of those spots where maybe the home field is worth a little bit more. But you talked about Urban Meyer and Ohio State and that 14-1-1 mark as road chalk, as a fairly short road chalk. This has been their role. Every role's been Penn State's role. They're 20-6. That's 20-0/6 ATS, their last 26 games. They've proven they can hang with Ohio State. They beat them, and they have a 1-point loss in the last 2 meetings. And, oh, by the way, Ohio State -7 at home last year. Now they're -3, 3.5 on the road this year. That's not a full adjustment. That's saying that the Buckeyes are a good notch or two better than they were last year, or Penn State's a notch or two worse. I'm not convinced that's the case. Ohio State's been really good. I'm in no rush to step in front of this team, but I'm in no rush to step in front of Penn State this week either, even though they will cover last week against Illinois. And the one that they had against Pitt, somewhat fraudulent, but they're making big plays. They did it against Ohio State last year. And if they do enough in this ball game, they'll cash tickets, maybe even money line tickets.
It's a Sportsbook Saturday or a 3 TV Saturday night. Washington, BYU, the Ohio State game, and this game all going on at the same time. 4:30 Pacific, NBC. The Irish at home against Stanford. Monster matchup. I like the favorite. 5.5 and 53 the total. Revenge for Notre Dame. Remember, I love him. Costello, his coming out party last year. 4 touchdowns in the home win against the Irish, 38-20. They are undefeated, but they were lucky to win last week. Had to go to overtime on the road. And again, look at the scheduling spot. Then it figures Stanford is a playoff contender, but they have to go to Arizona State, Washington, Oregon, and Notre Dame all in the same season in a quick span. Now they got to go back to Notre Dame on the road. They haven't been able to get Love going and the rushing attack as well. And Book, changing quarterbacks, as Wimbush only complete 50% of his passes. Cook was terrific. You want to say, okay, it's Wake Forest, but an outstanding job winning on the road. He threw the ball all over the yard. We'll see if he can have the same success as Herbert and that Oregon offense did as well. And will Costello be able to duplicate what he did last year against a Notre Dame defense?
I can understand the money coming on Notre Dame like it has so far this week. Certainly from a spot standpoint, bettors are worried about Stanford, their ability to focus in a difficult situation coming off a truly wild overtime victory. But I think Stanford's got the better talent. They certainly do. I'll trust Costello at quarterback before I trust a kid named Book, who has 2 career starts against Wake Forest and North Carolina. This defense, the Stanford defense, a little bit better than those two, I think. And when you talk about skill position weapons, we talk about Bryce Love. Obviously, Stanford's got wideouts who are making plays, NFL potential. It's a lot of points. I understand the spot, but I wouldn't sell the Cardinals short. I think they're every bit as good as the Fighting Irish. And if they can withstand the difficult travel, I expect the Cardinals to be in this game from start to finish. So you and I have a different opinion on this one, Pauly. We'll have to bet a burger on it or something.
I think it's a horrible spot. That's tough. Off the big win in overtime, and now you got to play another road game. And I don't trust David Shaw going conservative. I don't like him in a big game either. Money time, play of the day. Let's stay hot in football. Betting number 134. Cutcliffe, we trust. Dookie's at home. Doesn't matter. Harris, Jones, he makes it work. Great defense, giving up 14 points per game. Backup quarterback with Va Tech will lay the 4.5 at home. and the Dukies to stay undefeated. We'll go with that one with the play of the day. NFL Rapid Fire tomorrow. We'll recap what happens tonight in the NFL and the college game and Major League Baseball with only 3 days left. Loaded show tomorrow. Thanks for watching Sportsbit, all the betting news you need to know in less than 20 minutes. SBR Picks. I'm at Real Sportsbit on Twitter. He's at Teddy_covers. Thanks to the crew. Low Shack in the bag coming up next.